presenters. So please give a round of applause to Kylie Bartlett.
Ooh, hello.
And Ashleigh Alsadie, as well as David Guest. So over to you, David.
Oh, and Rob.
And Rob Lowe.
See you, Joe.
Morning, all.
I did say Rob, I think. Sorry.
And it's not Rob Lowe, the actor.
Yeah.
The other one, the good-looking one. Alrighty, so I suppose first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to the call today. It's pretty exciting. I'm very excited about what we're going to be talking about today, because as we hit the end of the year, we know that 2020 has been a year of planning, a year of contemplation, a year of reflection, a year of meditation. Not much action for a lot of people, but the exciting part is that in Melbourne, for those who are down here, we got let out this week. So people are all pretty excited about running around and going, seeing all their mates, we're organising road trips, we're doing all sorts of things. Now, while I got you guys here, in the chat box, if you want to introduce yourselves, who you are, what you do, that will help everyone else who's on the call know who you are. We will be doing some networking during the event. So we're going to have a couple of networking breakouts, but let's get into the topic. So. Today's topic is a step-by-step roadmap to filling your funnel in January. And I think one of the most important parts about running a business is making sure that you have your marketing nailed. And my experience has been that most people in business, when we talk about marketing and we talk about, getting clients, they say, oh, we don't need to market because most of our work comes from word of mouth. Or if I ask them what their marketing budget is, the answer is usually either non-existent or the least amount possible, all these sorts of weird things. So we're going to be talking about how we can make sure that you've got a funnel that is constantly filling itself and bringing you business for the whole of 2021. So I suppose a bit about our organisation, Outcomes Business Group. We've been around for 20 years now. I started this company in 2001. And our whole purpose in life is simple. I used to work for my parents in their business. And one of the things I realised was that some people in business work really hard and spin their wheels, and other people work not so hard and make lots of money. And I tried to work out what the differences were. Excuse me. And in simple terms, it was the ability to scale, the ability to understand how to build a business. So I think when people go into business, they go in for all the right reasons, and I'd be curious to see, I might ask this question into the chat box. What was the reason you went into business? Can I just get you to put that in the chat box as we're talking? What was the reason that you went into business? Just one word. We'll just see what people come up with. But for me, it's always been around things like freedom, being your own boss, those sorts of things, right? Now, for most people, when they go into business, this is a great idea. But can I ask a question? Those people on the call, who's been in business for over 5 years? Can I just get a show of hands? Those people have been in business over 5 years? Okay, we've got about half of you guys. Some of you I can't see. It'd be nice if you can turn your camera on so we can see you. But to me, what it is that most people go into business so that they can be their own boss. They can choose their own hours. They can choose their own income. Jackie said to be in control, and the problem is anyone who's been in business over 5 years knows what happens. We tend to work harder than we ever did for anyone else. So our hours sort of disappear and we will work for less than what is legal. Because if there's no money, then we still work, right? And so we've just got to think about how do we get back to that dream? How do we reinvigorate that dream? So one of the symptoms I've found of people who are stuck in their business, right? And here we go. Ashley's got the entrepreneurial seizure, right? Yep. Think about going in. And when I look at businesses, the majority of people that we see in business look a bit like this. They're busy, right? And I don't know why, but I think it's because the word busyness and business are very similar. So you ask someone how's business, they go, oh, we're flat out, right? And they do a bit of admin, usually after hours or usually on the weekends, and their marketing is small. Now, one of the reasons their marketing is small is they say we don't need to market. Most of our work comes from word of mouth. But here's the real reason. The real reason is that they're stuck in the middle of this business. And when we say we would like to double your business over the next 12 months, they get terrified, right? Because doubling a business where you're already flat out means you're going to be working twice as hard. So there's a linear sort of growth model, which means I can only handle so much work. What we look for in the ideal business is something more like this. So you've got your operations, your admin, and your marketing, and they're equal. Now, the best thing about this model is it's not you, okay? Because as long as you're in the middle of the business, there's a limit to how big it can grow. Now, some of us like doing this because we're control freaks. I spoke to someone just before about this, and that's fine. right? I don't mind if you're a control freak, right? What I mind is that if you're constraining the growth of your business because you're getting in the way, as long as you're aware of it, that's okay, yeah? So I want to talk a bit about marketing today. So our topic today is really about how do we fill that funnel in January? And the first problem that we have is when I ask people about their marketing budget, because the accountant's view of marketing is as an expense. And as an expense, especially when things are tough in the economy, we need to reduce expenses, right? So it makes sense, right? Because anything that you're spending in business, you need to be very smart about what you spend and what you don't spend. So the problem being, as long as marketing is an expense, and if business is going down because of things like COVID, we cut our expenses. But the problem with cutting our marketing expenses, it actually causes a flow-on effect, which means less business coming in the door. And we go to the accountant, we go, it's getting worse. He says, keep slashing, get rid of that sales guy, stop paying for that SEO, stop paying for that AdWords, and things just keep going in a downward spiral. Now, the entrepreneur's view, and I noticed someone said entrepreneur in the chat box, is that sales and marketing should be an investment. Now, what is the difference, right? What is the difference between expense and investments? In simple terms, it's this, right? If I invest money, I expect to see a return. Now, here's the funny thing about marketing in most people's businesses. They don't see it as investment, they see it as an expense. And I can tell because when I ask for the marketing budget question, they answer with the least amount possible, or I don't have a marketing budget. Now, if you're using those answers to what's your marketing budget for 2021, I'm suggesting that you're not seeing it as investment, you're seeing it as expense. Because if I asked you this question, hypothetically, if I said, give me $1 and I'll give you $2, and for every dollar you give me, I'll give you $2 in return, how much would you give me? Just into the chat box, how much would you give me? If I said, for every dollar you give me, I'll give you $1 in return, how much would you give me? Oh yes, go easy on accountants, I will. Infinite, I love that. Thanks, Mickey. Infinite, right? But see, the truth is I'm not going to give you $2 for every dollar you give me, right? But what I'm suggesting to you is if you knew that your marketing dollar produced $2 in profit, if you were guaranteed for every dollar you invested in marketing, you got $2 in return in profit, the only thing that would stop you investing in marketing is your capacity. Does that make sense? It's not about how much it costs you, it's about how much can you deliver. Now, for most people that I ask when they're in business and I say, how busy are you? They say, we're flat out. Then I ask the next question, can you take on new clients? Guess what they say? Of course we can. I go, I thought you were flat out. So there's a bit of a conflict in what they see. So what I'm asking is that you start looking at your marketing as investment from today. You evaluate every dollar you spend. Don't go in naively and throw money at it. Evaluate every dollar that you spend and start to identify what your return on investment is. Now, there's a way to do it. There's two numbers that you need to know. The first one is a thing called acquisition cost. And when I talk about acquisition cost, literally by definition is it's how much do you pay for a new client? How much do you pay for a new client? Now, you can work this number out pretty easily, right? You look at your expenses, all your marketing and all your sales expenses, you add them up and you divide it by the number of new clients that you picked up that particular period. So if we looked at, say, October, you could look at how much did I spend on marketing, how much did I spend on sales, how much of my own time did I spend? Divide that by the number of new clients and that'll give you a reality check, right? Because you'll realize that you're spending money on getting new clients, but you might not have got a new client, so it becomes infinite, right? The trick with this number is to reduce it. Now, if I don't measure it, I can't reduce it. Okay, so if I give you one piece of homework I'm going to give you two pieces of homework out of my presentation. The first one is to measure this number religiously every month, report it, right? Calculate what it is. If you don't know how to calculate it, reach out to someone who can help you, either a bookkeeper or you can reach out to someone in our office, but you need to know what your acquisition cost is and it's a dollar value and it needs to be measured to the cent. Because if you're guessing, it's subjective, which means depends on your mood. If you're measuring, it's measurable, which means you're accountable to a number. Now, there's a second number that you need to be thinking about, which is what's called lifetime value. Now, what is lifetime value? It's literally how much money will a client spend with you in their lifetime. Now, it's a really important figure because sometimes our acquisition cost is more than the profit we make on the first sale with a client. Now, how do we measure lifetime value? In simple terms, you look in your zero, and you look at all your clients and you say, when did they spend money with me first and how long have they been with me? And that gives you how much they spent in their lifetime. Now, if you're only new, it's going to be very short, but as you grow, if you keep your clients forever, the number grows every year. Does that sort of make sense? Just nod if you get it. Just got a few nods, all right. These are really important numbers because for me, marketing does not make any sense unless you know acquisition cost and lifetime value. And the lifetime value number is one you grow, and the acquisition cost is the number that you reduce. Now, if all you do with your marketing is work out how do I reduce my acquisition cost and how do I get my clients to stay longer and spend more, you're on a good wicket, because now our marketing goes from expense to investment. And the better you are at building your marketing funnel, the more successful you will be in actually getting this sort of growth in the business. Everyone follow me so far? Awesome. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, the first thing I want to talk about today is getting these guys, getting clients. And when we talk about getting clients, we're going to talk about 3 different ways that we can do this. The first thing we need to do is we need to be able to attract. So we need to actually have some level of presence in the marketplace so that people know we exist, okay? And we've got 2 speakers that are going to be talking about attraction strategies so that you can build the people who know and like you out there and even trust you. And then once we've got them on board, we need to engage them, right? And the reason we want to engage our prospects is to build trust, okay? The reason we engage our prospects, and social media is such a fantastic marketing conduit that most people don't understand how to use it. It's not just about generating leads, it's about building relationships. So if we can attract and engage people through our social channels, now we start building this momentum. And the last thing that we need to do is we need to convert these relationships to dollars, okay? Because it's never going to be an investment unless we see a return. So it's nice to spend money on marketing and have lots of leads and lots of likes and lots of this and that and the other, but until $1 comes back in the door, it's an expense. So today we've got 3 speakers. I'm really excited about our lineup today because we're going to be talking about some awesome strategies that are going to help you grow your business into the next level. And a lot of it's going to be about what you do between now and the start of next year. So it's really about the planning, it's about the understanding, it's about embracing some of the strategies. So make sure you got your pen ready and your paper ready because I'm going to switch to our first presenter. So without any further ado, what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce one of my longtime friends who's been in this space for so many years. Her name's Kylie Bartlett. Can I just have a show of hands? Has anyone heard of Kylie before?
Oh.
Only 2 people?
Oh, yeah, come on.
Of course, you have. What I will tell you is I've known Kylie for quite a long time, and she's been in the social media space from when social media began, as far as I'm concerned. She used to be known as the web celeb, right? She had a channel, and if you go online and you search her, you'll find all sorts of videos from way back then to right now. She's got some great ideas she's going to be sharing with us on how we can actually grow our funnel online, about how we can build those relationships. Her topic is leverage out of lockdown, how to future-proof your business with social media. So I'm going to hand over to Kylie. Let's give her a nice warm welcome, give her a bit of a cheer.
Feeling the love. Let me just bring up my slides, put it into presenter mode. Can everyone hear me? I'm just going to put my, can you all hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Yep, you can hear me. Fantastic. Lorena, there's people coming in. You're going to let them in, I'm assuming. First of all, I want to say, David, thank you so very much for inviting me to be a presenter at your event today. As you pointed out, we go way back. Like, I think it would have to be close to nearly 20 years in different iterations. But one thing that's remained constant is that admiration and respect for each other in business. So I'm delighted. Thank you for providing me with the opportunity to present today. And yes, as David pointed out, I kind of have been in social media since its birth. I know I don't look that old, but I've been in it now for about 13 years. And I think it's really important for me to share a little bit of my background so that you can get an appreciation of why I jumped into social, why I specialize in it, and why I'm still such a big advocate 13 years later as to why every business needs to be embracing and doing social media marketing. We all know we're living in really challenging times. For me, this is my 3rd, I guess, global financial crisis. If we look at my background, I started my career back as a teller in Pyramid Building Society, Geelong Building Society. If any of you are old enough to remember that they were Australia's largest building society that went under in the late 80s. So that was my first GFC, retrenched, unemployed, 22 years of age. What am I going to do? I then pivoted into training and education, founded a registered training organization in my mid-20s. We're going back now into the late 90s. And I could see there was a GFC coming around the corner, sold my company in 2007, and bang, 2008, we have another GFC. Now, this is the interesting thing. So I'm now 3 months cashed up at the CEO of nothing. So it's 2008, I've got this money, but I got no job, a GFC's hit, and I'm like, what am I going to do? What do I want to be when I grow up? Well, this is the interesting thing. So social media, so if you remember back to around 2007, 2008, when the GFC hit, Facebook was only 3 years old. MySpace was the new kid on the block. Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok hadn't even been born then. And I did not know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And it was someone that actually said to me, have you thought about just jumping onto social media, onto Facebook, to keep your brand current until you figure out what your next move is in business? And I'm like, are you serious? I'm not going onto Facebook. That's what kids do. I am so much more sophisticated, far more educated, far more talented. And someone said to me, Kylie, get over yourself. My background is in behavioral science, neuroscience. So I'm very fascinated about what makes the human tick. And someone actually pointed out to me, social media is just an evolution of the way that we communicate, just like we were doing faxes back in the 90s and 2000s. And before that, carrier pigeons and smoke signals. That social media is just an evolution of the way that we communicate. So why would you be so ignorant and arrogant to not jump on social when it is going to be the way that we communicate into the future? And so I'll never forget my first status update in 2008 on Facebook. I kind of, hit the keyboard and hoped it didn't blow up. And then all these people started liking my posts, and I started going, what is this? There's all these strangers. And after a while, I started recognizing that, it's no different than, I don't know about you guys, but when I was growing up, my parents insisted that I had a pen pal. And I had a pen pal in Japan, and every Sunday night before I watched Countdown, yes, now I'm really showing my age, I had to sit down and pen a letter to my pen pal in Japan. And then I'd wait 3 months, 6 months until that letter came back in the letterbox. And, once I realized that this was just pen paling on steroids, I kind of got rid of this scared, fearful, it's not for me, I want real connection. And then I started recognizing that if you go into social media with the right intent, with the right strategy, with the right approach, that it is the most phenomenal opportunity to connect, engage, and make a difference with people, not just locally, nationally, but even on a global scale. And so I guess that is my introduction into social media back in 2008. I then started becoming quite popular for my social media posts, my Facebook posts. I then went and published a book called Facebook Friends with Benefits. I then, an agent reached out to me and invited me to become one of their speakers. So I've become an international keynote speaker for the past 12 years, traveling the world as a keynote speaker and thought leader on social media strategy and content. I've also got my own TV show. I was on YouTube before YouTube was even cool. I think I started my channel again back in 2008. So there's a lot of people that have jumped onto social media and be calling themselves the experts. I wouldn't say I'm an expert in social. What I'm an expert in is business, in marketing, in communication, and I just happen to then use social as my vehicle for that. I think that there's a lot of the little hipsters that have jumped on there now with their runners and their jeans and their little blazer. It's really interesting when I jump on stage as a woman who's over 50 talking about social. And I guess the reason I'm sharing this story with you is to compel you to think about getting out of your own little sand pit and starting to play in the pits where other people are playing. For me, it's actually not about whether I like social or not. That's beside the point. It's actually, where is my target market? Where are the eyeballs? And where the eyeballs are, so are the opportunities. And so I'm playing in the sand pits at the moment of Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube. But that may change in months or years to come. But for me, it's very much around, where are people playing and how can I go and learn to play their game as well? So that's a little bit about myself. I'm a firm believer that you can only stay in business to the extent that people will remember you. I know you're probably yourselves. I found that I was going to the same coffee shop day in, day out before COVID, and then they chose to close down, not even do takeaways through the last 6 months. And now I've changed who I get my coffee from. because I've kind of like, now they're back open again because Melbourne were out of lockdown as of last week, but I've already built a relationship with someone else that was front of mind. I truly do believe that you will be yesterday's hero if you are not front of mind, especially at the moment, since we've got so many opportunities, so many different competition and varieties, and we don't have to buy for one person anymore. We can now have a choice. And when we've got choices, it's the people that are serving, connecting, engaging, attracting, being front of mind that are going to build business. And I think it was a really good point that David brought up, that, you know, we all want to fill a funnel and make sales in January 2021, but that actually has to start now. You know, it's not like 2-minute noodles. You put them on the stove, give them a little bit of a stir, and then you pour them in your cup and they're ready to eat. That doesn't happen in any relationship, in particular in social, where you're not meeting someone physically. And so in order to fill a funnel and then convert them into sales in January, now is the time that you need to be doing that. Now is the time that you need to be showing up so that people are remembering you. I think that we're in an incredible time where it's what I'm calling the perfect storm. Research has shown that social media traffic is up by 74% because people are working remotely. They've got an opportunity to kind of sneak a look on their phone and be on social media, but also people are feeling, especially us in Victoria, we're feeling very disconnected, and a way that we were feeling connected and not so lonely was to jump onto social media. So social media traffic is now up by 74%. And then you combine that with ad spend. If you were to run a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad, the prices for what you're going to pay for the ads are down by 20% because a lot of the big corporates have pulled their ad spend. And so when you've got more eyeballs on social and it's costing you less, there's never been, I don't believe, a better opportunity to be jumping into social and learning how to leverage yourself out of lockdown and create leads and sales for January 2021. Some of you are probably saying, yeah, right, Kylie, have you worked in our business, in my business? I'm already managing a gazillion other things, and now you're trying to tell me I need to now incorporate social media into everyday work, day-to-day life. And I'm saying, yes, you do. And there's probably a few of you on this call that are like wanting to bury your head in the sand and going, stop, world, let me get off. Let me know when all this social media is over and I can go back to the way that I did business. And, you know, the word, the new normal or COVID normal, has been done to death. If I hear it one more time. Having said that, there is no other better way to explain what's going on in the world than this is the new normal. And keeping burying your head in the sand and hoping the world is going to go back to the way it was is not going to happen. Social is here to stay. And in fact, it's only ramped up. And so they did some study in Australia, and they said because of COVID, the consumers' buying habits of using technology and shopping carts and online has jumped 10 years in 6 months, and the same with businesses. So businesses now adopting technology like WhatsApp and Dropbox and Zoom like we're using today. The advancements in businesses understanding of technology has advanced by 10 years over 6 months as well. So because it's been a 6-month lockdown thereabouts, we are not going to go back to the way it was either as a consumer, but also as a business, because we've learned to use these tools and our behavior has changed now that they are becoming that new normal within our business. So if you're waiting for it to go back to the way it was, it's not going to. Now's the time to pull your head out of the sand and think about what is 2021 going to look like for you, and how can you leverage social media so that you're getting those sales that you desire. You know, there's no doubt competition is really tough. Back when people were offline and reluctant to jump online, it made it easier for us that were early adopters of social to get that cut through. Now, with everyone jumping online, either reactively or proactively, it really is so tough out there, and the consumer has more choices than ever before. You've got the young millennials in their 20s that are building out e-commerce businesses, turning over millions of dollars, all from their bedroom at home or their garage. So we're now finding that so many people are jumping online, and the cost to jump online is so low that there is no gatekeeper. Everyone can go and jump online. There is no one saying that you're not good enough. Everyone has the opportunity. The problem is that it's starting to look a little bit like Where's Wally? Whilst the great news is that everyone's jumping online and buying online, the bad news is that everyone's jumping online and no one's standing out. So without a really solid strategy and an execution plan, then you are going to end up like, where's Wally? And then what will end up happening is that you'll say, oh, social media doesn't work. It's ineffective. I shouldn't have done it. And what my response will be, well, social media is not the problem. It's the strategy that you've got behind it. And so I also want to acknowledge that you've taken time out of your busy day to be on this webinar at this event today, which tells me that you're smart, that you're wanting to look to use the last couple of months of this year to really start to fill that funnel and start to build momentum so that you do have a bumper, fantastic 2021. Ashleigh's going to hit on this subject a bit as well around, you know, most people think it's the silly season or, you know, it's Christmas and that we can take time off. That's what people do. And that's the reason why we're saying to you, don't do that. You know, jump online and have your strategy, start to nurture, start to build relations, build trust, which is what Rob's going to be talking about, so that they convert into sales in January 2021. So I want to introduce you to the new lounge room. And I don't know if your lounge room looks like this. It certainly mine does. I have to, you know, send a private message to my son on Facebook to come down for dinner, and everyone's sitting there. We've got our screens, we've got our laptops, we've got our phones, and we're now used to pressing buttons for everything. So this little baby here, our little phone, has become the remote control to our lives. We, you know, we press a button and a car turns up. We press a button and food turns up. We press another button and we've got someone comes and offers us their accommodation. We press another, oh, sorry, my screen's in the way. We press a button and someone can come and mow our lawns. We press a button and a movie comes on. We press a button and we get a date. We press a few more buttons and we get more than a date. Like our whole world is used to pressing buttons. And so can you appreciate that if we are used to pressing buttons and then all of a sudden you want to build a relationship with me that is a complete opposite to pressing a button, there is a disconnect. And so what we have to do is jump into this pressing buttons. And so that when people press buttons, they're pressing us. And whether that be the apps on social media or that your website's been optimized, that it's mobile friendly, so people can press buttons because that's what we've got used to. You are who Google says you are. Have any of you ever like had a headache and then you go Google the symptoms and before you know it, you're writing your obituary and you're getting your wills sorted? And because Facebook has, you know, sorry, Google has said that, you know, we're dying of some deadly disease. And it's true, whether we like it or not, we are who Google says we are. And so we need to start to think about how can we use Google? And in the context for me, it's around social proof. You know, in your business, I read that one of the guests on today is a naturopath while also juggling 4 kids. You know, like, what are you doing to encourage your patients to leave you great reviews on Google about your naturopathy services? You know, if you're an accountant, what are you doing to encourage your clients to be leaving you reviews? If you own a restaurant, you know, I don't know about you, but I don't go to any restaurant, cafe, bar, pub until I've looked them up on social media to see what their food looks like. And I've gone to Google to see what the reviews are, or TripAdvisor. And if they've got bad reviews, then I'm not going there. And yet that cafe will say to me, times are tough. Oh, COVID's really affected us, times are tough. And I'm like, you're making it tough on yourself because you're not using all of the platforms that we go to before we even go and make a decision to eat in a restaurant or a cafe. So remember to get your Google footprint really working for you and encouraging your customers to leave you reviews. So what I would like to share with you for the next we've got about another 7 or 8 minutes to go, is just a really easy, quick 3-step strategy for preparing your business to fill the funnel for January 2021. And it's, first of all, it's going to start with a plan. We're going to then talk about what we need to do to pivot, and then, of course, publishing content for social media. So I'm such a believer in you need to start with the end in mind. You wouldn't build a house without a set of architectural plans. And yet I see people jump into social media and post every now and then. And, you know, they look at their clock and go, oh, I better go and whack something on Facebook. And there's been no strategy behind it. There's been no foundation. And of course, you put garbage into anything, including social media, the chances are you're going to get garbage out of it. You need to understand what your goals, your strategy, your KPIs are as well. Like, it amazes me how many people go onto social and they say, Kylie, can you manage our social for us? And all we want you to do is to get us 10,000 likes or followers on Instagram. And I'm like, yeah. And what would you like those 10,000 followers to do? Because that is not an outcome. That is a strategy. But if there's no engagement, there's no conversion, there's no sales happening, then I question, why are you wanting 10,000? You know, the whole likes is vanity, conversion is your sanity. And so thinking about, before you start in social, what are you wanting to achieve? If you're wanting to achieve 1,000 likes in 12 months on Facebook, then you need a KPI around, well, 5% are talking about the brand at any given time. And then you're measuring how many of those are turning into customers. You also need to know who your target market is. And I call it, who's your Bob and Betty? You don't want to be talking to Tom, Dick, and Harry. You only want to be talking to your Bob and Betty, and getting really, really clear on who it is that you want to talk to and where are they playing. So for example, if you look in this slide, I've segmented that the millennials are playing on Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. Families are more on Instagram, Facebook, and in particular, women are on Pinterest. And then you look at more of that executive retiree are on Facebook and LinkedIn. And so again, having that scattergun approach and saying the same thing across different platforms is not going to work for you. You need to first start with who you're wanting to talk to, where are they hanging out, and how can you put your communication into the context of that platform. So for example, on Instagram, you do a post, you want to do a minimum of 20 to 30 hashtags, whereas you'd only do 2 or 3 on Facebook. So you need a different strategy depending on which platform that you're going to be playing on. You know, I have my brand, I wrote a book called Friends with Benefits, so it's clearly got a bit of smut to it. And I do believe that, you know, what we're doing in social media is we're acting like an 18-year-old dude on his first date. We're kind of going in there, connecting with someone, trying to close the deal. And the person's like, no, I need to be courted. I need flowers. I need drinks. I need chocolates. I need presents. And so that's why this webinar is all around, how do you attract the right people, but how do you nurture them and flirt with them so that then the conversion happens hopefully in January 2021. So you've put in the work beforehand. It's not going to just happen overnight for you. The second point is around pivoting, and that is around changing the strategy without changing your vision. This is not about throwing out your business plan, but it's about tweaking it, but still keeping your North Star, that vision, very much front and center. But we've all heard the word pivot. My God, has that been done to death? But I want to give you some examples of what businesses have done because of COVID and because of lockdown to not lose sight of their vision, but they have pivoted in their strategy. And first of all, I think it's important to look at this quote by Plato, which is, the necessity is the mother of all invention. If we look at World War II, penicillin was invented. If we look at SARS, e-commerce skyrocketed and caused Alibaba to pivot into the multi-billion-dollar business it is today. And if we look at an example like the French luxury goods group, which is the LVMH, they're now producing hand sanitizer when they've been known for their perfume, all because of COVID. So whilst has COVID been a pain in the ass? Absolutely. Try living down here in Melbourne. It's been shocking. But what I've liked about it is to find the silver linings and what can we do to innovate, pivot, adapt to these times. And it is the survival of the fittest. And so sometimes I'm like, bring it on. We've got a game on now, and it's going to sort out, sorry to gender use this, sort out the men from the boys or girls from the ladies. So I want to give you an example. This is not one of my clients, but I think it's a perfect example of, they're a traditional hair salon. They've got salons all around Australia known for their hairstyles. When in COVID, the owner actually started teaching women how to color their hair at home. And I'm guilty of watching his videos to learn how to dye my hair, how to style my hair, how to blow dry my hair. And I do a lot of work within the health and beauty industry in our social media management. And a lot of our clients were like, why would we teach people how to do that? And I'm like, what I can tell you about humans is the more you teach them how to do something, the more they want you to do it for them. We wouldn't have personal trainers if this wasn't the case. You know, we all know how to do a sit-up or run around the block, but we want that accountability. We want someone to do it for us. So I think this was a really clever move with Edwards & Co. They taught us to do it for us. But I tell you, the minute that we came out of lockdown, I couldn't wait to then go and get my hair done by them. But I'm using their online videos and their YouTube channel to maintain my hair. So it was a great value add. This is a beauty salon down in Geelong, which is originally where I'm from. And they started bundling up packs of home deliveries. I love the one with you, and nothing better than a buff and a beer for the boys. So they started putting packages together that they were home delivering how to do manicures and pedicures. Or I don't know, you ladies out there, I've taken my nails off, but when we went into lockdown with no notice, trying to get those bloody SNS or acrylic nails off, these guys pivoted and started putting kits together that people could do things at home, you know, tinting their eyebrows, their eyelashes, another great example. This is one of my previous clients. Now, Ziggy is a traditional financial planner and owns an accountancy firm as well. And so when he couldn't consult with his clients in real life with COVID, he then started creating videos on giving financial tips and accounting tips and business tips through his YouTube channel to compensate for the fact that he couldn't meet with his clients whilst in lockdown. This is one of our great clients, Hedge End Maze. They're out in Gippsland, and they've got mazes. Like, no one can go to a maze in lockdown. So what they did there is Leah then started putting little cheat sheets together of teaching parents how to set up their yards at home with little lost and founds and little mazes in your own backyard and your own garden. Again, a great example of being front of mind. While you can't come to our maze, let's teach us how to do mazes in your own backyard, so that brand was still current, that when we came out of lockdown, people are now going back to the mazes. And lastly, which I would say is one of the most important steps in social, is once you've got your strategy and you know what it is, who your target market is, what are you going to publish? It really is about give and you shall receive. You can't be just sell. It must be around serve, and then have a sale come through. And so the best way to do that is by producing really good quality content. If social media marketing is your machine, producing good quality content is what's going to fuel it. Here's an example of one of our clients. They were a traditional offline jewelry store before COVID. They pivoted to now e-commerce and online. And what we've done with their social is we've incorporated education videos, how to pick the best earrings for your ear based on your size of your face. What's the best necklace? How do you care for your jewelry? How do you fix the claws? So all these great tips on education to be able to support the consumer in not just buying jewelry, but also then maintaining it and looking after it as well. Sorry, my slides. You know, this is my social, very bright and bubbly, goes with my personality, but you know, I've got a TV show, so sometimes I'm putting up content on my TV show. I'm putting up little quotes to get people thinking. I'm being current. I'm reposting other people's material, but there's a real strategy behind it. And you'll notice even my color schemes are all lined up so that it looks beautiful. It's on brand. It doesn't look like a work in progress. It looks aesthetically pleasing, and my messaging is very consistent in what I'm talking about. So I guess that kind of brings us to the end. And I hope I've built a big enough case for why you need to do social. It is not going away. You've seen the stats. The traffic's up by 74%. It is here to stay. And if you go into it with the right strategy and with the right target market in mind, you will produce sales, but it is not a sprint. It is a marathon. I can't stress enough why you need to be doing it right now over the Christmas period if you're then wanting to convert them into sales into January and beyond. If you enjoyed this presentation and you'd like a copy of my slides, by all means, email me at kylie@digitaltalentgroup.com.au. I've got lots of cheat sheets. I've got lots of videos. If you can't find them or there's something in particular that you'd be interested in, I'd be only too happy to be able to help you. So drop me a line on email and I'll be able to answer all your questions you might have.
Awesome. Let's give Kylie a nice warm round of applause.
Hey.
Hey.
That was good.
It was. Look, what I will also ask is, look, Kylie is the guru when it comes to understanding how social works. She's very, very generous with her time and her advice. If anyone on the call is interested in having a chat with Kylie, please just put into the chat box, yes, to chat with Kylie, and she'll know to give you a buzz. I mean, she is a busy woman, but she's also evangelistic about the social scene, and she keeps telling me what I should and shouldn't do. So anyone who's keen on getting on board with Kylie just for a chat, please do, because there's one thing Kylie didn't mention is over Christmas is when social media goes through the roof, right? Because people are on there, they're sharing photos of their trips, they're looking up their family, their friends. You want to be in the mix, right? You want to be in people's face during Christmas. Don't wait till next year to do your social. You need to be in there right now, and she'll give you some tips and pointers to get straight onto it. So anyone who's keen on doing that, please say yes in the chat box. What we're going to do in a moment is we're going to go into some breakout rooms, because some of these events, it's a bit about who you meet as well. So I'm going to ask Lorena to actually put everyone into some rooms with the presenters, so you can have a bit of a chat. You get to meet some other people and do some networking, and we'll see you back here in about 5 minutes. So I will catch up with you guys very soon. Let's get you into those breakout rooms for some chats. Lorena, let's go. First presentation with Kylie, and I didn't mention, if you have questions for Kylie, we're going to do a Q&A as we move towards the end of today's presentation. We've got 2 more presenters, so if you want to either type your questions into the chat box or you can save them towards the end. I'm pretty excited about our next presenter. I think one of the, like Kylie's very big on the visuals, right? So you talk Instagram, you talk Facebook, you talk MySpace. I don't even know if that exists anymore, but anything that actually is live, interactive and bright, Kylie's there, right? Now, a lot of us are in white collar and LinkedIn is the secret weapon. And so we use LinkedIn for our professional network. We're looking for people on LinkedIn because we know that that's where they are. We need to work out, how do we engage on LinkedIn? Now, LinkedIn will tell you the way they want you to engage, but they've got their own agenda. Our next expert, Rob Lowe, who's been doing LinkedIn lead gen for businesses for quite a while now, is actually going to share some of his wisdom and some of his insight on how you can actually improve your conversion on LinkedIn and use it as part of your growth strategy moving forward. So if you'd like to welcome Rob to the call, let's get Rob on to talk a bit about LinkedIn. That's you, Rob.
Thanks, everybody. Right. Yeah. Okay, your video. All right, there you go. So thanks, David, and thanks everyone for having me today. It's been an interesting journey. My background is in tech, and moved into web early 2000s, and then sort of moved into SEO. I worked for an SEO company. Learned enough about search and social media, and started sort of chipping away at social media there. Got headhunted for a digital agency which specialized in LinkedIn. So moving from an SEO world into the LinkedIn world was a very interesting experience, because I didn't understand how powerful social media was from a business point of view, and particularly LinkedIn. Yeah, long story short, started my own business 5 years ago, and yeah, we've pretty much grown from strength to strength, and every day I learn more about social media. So when I'm described as an expert, I say I'm not an expert. I employ experts. I'm learning all day, every day. So
slides, Rob, we can't see them.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I haven't started with that yet. Hold on.
That's all right. There we go.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, goody. All right, hold on a second. Hold on a second. All righty. So you all know what the subject is today, multi-touch point. When I say multi-touch point, I'm going to focus on LinkedIn today because that's my speciality, but don't ignore the other channels. Kylie would have told you a lot about that. She made some very good points about demographics, choosing the right platform. We'll touch on that inside of this presentation. But again, you need to be present and active and engaged in the right forums, but don't ignore the others. So the Twitters, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, and so forth. So I'll kick off. Hold on a second. Did I say earlier that I was a tech person? Anyway, we'll get started. Yeah, just some, for anyone that wants this, I just pop a message in the chat and I'll send you the PDF, but there's some testimonials about some happy clients. Everyone will give you those, and that's all very nice. At the end of the day, all we focus on as a business is in results, okay? What does that mean? Not 400 likes on your LinkedIn page, not 900 comments, not really interested in those. Those are, as Kylie said, she didn't have the same words, vanity metrics, all right, Kylie? What we talk about is actual results, which is really leads at the end of the day, but converted leads, obviously. Leads are pretty worthless to you if you're not converting. So that's the goal. And the channel is LinkedIn specifically for us as a business, but again, don't ignore the other channels. Today we talk really about social selling, okay? So social selling, a lot of people don't understand what it is. It's multi-touch point, but it's really engaging over a long period of time to encourage a conversation one-on-one with the business owner and a target prospect. That's what it looks like. What is it? I've just said it. It's a conversation. Over a period of time, again, multi-touch point, but focusing on warming people up and nurturing them through the phase until there's a buying conversation. What isn't it? Social selling is not a sales pitch. I love that little slide. How many of you have connected with somebody on LinkedIn and you get a sales pitch straight up, right? Is that a good idea? Well, you know the answer. You get an email, cold emails, those are all great. Or you connect to somebody on LinkedIn and 3 minutes later, you're subscribed to their newsletter on LinkedIn, on email. Obviously not ideal. There you go. Accept your connection request. Now send me a sales pitch. Okay, not ideal. Or please like my Facebook page. What is social selling? It's a conversation. We keep on banging on about it. What does it look like? Through chat, in the old days, we used to meet for coffee. It's a phone conversation, and it's specific to social media. It's in comments, posts, and likes. What is it about? Building on one-on-one relationships. Again, we start with the connection phase. We go through to the nurturing phase, and we need to nurture people for long enough that they consider you a thought leader in your space. Okay, results. Again, what do we mean by results? Is that leads or is that conversions? It is both. Kylie touched on this very well. Pick the platform where your prospective clients are active and engaged. Okay, that's very important. Demographic. I talk about LinkedIn, but a lot of businesses may be more aligned to Facebook, Instagram, or whatever it is. But your best business forum is B2B is obviously LinkedIn. There you go. Okay, what does it mean? Constant engagement. So let's talk specifically about LinkedIn and what you need to do on a daily basis. Okay, these are daily activities, everybody. Connection request is the most important part of every day. All right, connecting to the right people. Now, the key here is targeted connections. Don't just connect to everybody. I do say, though, if somebody requests a connection and they're not within your target market, always accept, because they have a network that you can nurture and engage at a later stage. So never lock people out, even competitors. There's a strategy around that. Likes and comments, okay? Get active, get engaged, get talking to people, get your name and your business out there. Personal and published posts, everybody knows how important content is. Now, some people might disagree with me here, but content doesn't generate leads. What it does is it positions you as authority. What does that mean, and what should you be doing? You should be producing topical, relevant content relative to your speciality. Why? So people can reference you and reference your speciality and see you as the leader in your space. Following that process, it's way easier to engage them in a business conversation when they see you're the expert. And then obviously status updates, which is a part of the posting process. Okay, some nice little data there. There's 11 million LinkedIn users in Australia. Okay, those are big numbers. 46.3% of its entire population are on LinkedIn. How's that for numbers? Okay, and there's your demographics there. 25 to 34 is the biggest group, no surprises. 35 to 54 is the next. Okay, don't ignore the others though. Right, how do we get results? Okay, I touched on this already. Oh, somebody else is joining us. Connecting to the right people. We call it laser-focused targeting approach, all right? Probably out of every 10 businesses that approaches us, 8 of them don't really know who their target market is, okay? The important thing is making sure you understand, A, what your target market is, and B, what that looks like inside of LinkedIn. LinkedIn are very specific with categories, industry, job role, all the criteria. Make sure you've got all of that correct when you reach out to people. Okay. And the tech geek strikes again. Nurture for long enough. Now, nurturing, if you receive a connection request and you say yes, and 3 seconds later you receive the sales pitch, obviously there's absolutely no nurturing. You can be, the only person who can get away with that is probably Bill Gates. Anyone else, you've got to establish your authority. and your knowledge in your space. So hitting people up with a sales message, any sales message, by the way, at any time in LinkedIn is not advisable. You've got to engage with value. So don't sell to people, establish your authority, and again, engage later on, but no sales pitches. Okay, now we talk about what's the final piece in the puzzle. We've connected to people within our target market. We've nurtured them for long enough, and that can mean weeks or months or even years in some cases. And then we need to engage with a compelling value proposition. Now, what does that look like? Don't hit people with a sales brochure type conversation, and don't make it long. All you need to do is, you should already have established your authority in your space. So it really comes from a position of identifying and focusing on people's pain, okay? Ashleigh will touch on pain points and talking about pain. Sales is all about listening to people's pain and not talking about it, okay? Don't tell people what pain they're experiencing. You may make some suggestions about the pain that they inside of their markets and inside of the industry they may be experiencing, but it really is about a stimulus into a conversation offline outside of LinkedIn. So that's what your marketing message needs to look like. Quick review, what is social selling? It's a conversation, one-on-one relationship. That's at the end of the chain. You start one-to-many at the start, you start connecting to the right people, you nurture one-to-many and one-to-one, and right at the end of it, it really has to be a one-to-one invitation to a conversation outside of LinkedIn. Okay, constant engagement. What does that look like? Connection requests, likes, comments, posts, and status updates. Social media for your business. Obviously, pick the platform. It's a no-brainer, most of you, it's LinkedIn. Make sure that you're also present on the other platforms. There's a subtle element of marketing outside of LinkedIn where people need to see your authority as well. And Facebook is ideal for that, so is Insta. And obviously pick the B2B channel, bias here, LinkedIn. How connect to the right people, nurture for long enough, and engage with a compelling value proposition. That's pretty much it. If any of you, again, want to have a copy of these slides, just flick us a message here. And again, at any time, any questions, reach out and ask. We've got a little Q&A at the end of this, but outside of that, reach out to me and ask any questions. And hopefully I can impart some wisdom.
Let's give Rob a hand. Awesome little presentation, Rob.
Thank you.
Certainly non-technical and not as flashy as Kylie's, but I suppose when it comes down to it, what we need here is just that ability to understand exactly what we need to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to move into another networking room. We're going to randomize everybody into different groups. Just for a quick introduction, make sure you do some networking over the next few minutes, and we'll catch you back for the last, possibly the most exciting, which is all about conversion. I said possibly, Kylie. But let's go into the breakout room, see what you learned, and we'll be back in a few minutes to have Ashleigh. Let's go.
Sorry, I've just encountered some technical issues. So do you mind just going to Ashleigh? Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
You're up.
So without further ado, due to popular demand, right, what we're going to do is, before I do let Ashleigh take over, because she does do that, I will introduce her. So for those who don't know Ashleigh Alsadie, she's also known as the Pro Madonna. She's the one person I've met in my life that actually loves cold calling more than life itself, which is bizarre, right? But the thing I've learned from Ashleigh is that sales is not something we should be sort of afraid of, and learning how to convert leads into dollars is something that we should not only be proud of and be embracing in our business, it's something that we should be doing every single day. So if you'd like to give Ashleigh a nice warm welcome, let's get her onto the screen. Hey, Ashleigh.
Hello. Yes. Well, way to throw me in the deep end, but hey, I can handle it, David. So look, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. As David said, yes, I am better known by many as the Pro Madonna or the cold calling queen, because that is certainly my forte. Now, I'm here to talk to you about conversion 101 in 2021. And I'm excited to do that because, you know, we've had some amazing speakers so far that have shown you all about how to attract and engage. But that's all well and good to drive, you know, these consistent leads to your business. But what happens when they get there? how can you actually have a great conversation and convert them into clients? And that's what we're going to be focused on during my presentation. But first, a little bit more about me, who I am and what I do. So as David mentioned, I run a company called the Promo Donna. We are a lead generation company based here in Melbourne, and I've actually been running this business for 9.5 years now. Now, I was inspired to create the Promo Donna because, yes, I'm that rare and crazy breed that loves doing all the grunt work that you would rather avoid or just don't have time for, and that is cold calling. So I found that there was a gap in the market. Everybody else didn't want to do it, and I loved it. So I thought, well, I can help to grow other people's businesses by completing the first half of the sales process for them. So it was founded in July 2011. Fast forward to today, and I have a team of 6 highly professional salespeople that call alongside me. We've called for hundreds of companies all around Australia, but we've also done about 50,000 hours of cold calling together, and it's probably more, to be completely honest. I think I did those maths a few years back now. Now, over the time that I've been running the Promo Donna, I also started to get approached by people who said, well, Ashleigh, you love cold calling. You do this each and every day. You also sell in a face-to-face setting. So I'd love you to train me or my team in how to more effectively do this. So I established my own personal brand and used pretty much the systems and the processes that my team and I use each and every day to train people up on how to more effectively generate more leads and to sell. So that's a little bit about my background and what gives me the expertise to talk to you today. But as I said, you know, my presentation is all about Conversion 101 in 2021. And why am I so passionate about talking about how to fill our funnels for January? Now, I know Kylie touched on this a little bit earlier. She said, Ash will jump into the fact that when we get to the silly season, the last part of the year, or, you know, when something comes along, people make all the excuses in the world as to why they won't be generating leads at that time. So we find this at the Promo Donna every single year, that the majority of our clients start to have conversations around, well, in November, December, it's probably not worth calling. Or early in January, it's not worth calling until, you know, Australia Day comes around. And believe it or not, it's exactly the same during COVID, that a lot of businesses have put their foot on the brakes and said, look, I'm not going to generate leads right now. I've even had people say, isn't it a bit insensitive of me to have targeted other businesses during this time? And I said, no. It's the complete opposite of what you should be doing. So during COVID, as was mentioned by a few of the presenters, people needed to pivot to see the silver lining and to find all the available opportunities that were there for them. It's the same when the silly season comes around, when Christmas comes around, you really need to switch into that focus of, well, if my competitors aren't selling right now, if they're not ramping things up, then I could really optimize on all of this and capture more available opportunities in the marketplace. So my reinforcement up front is that in order to fill your pipeline for January and convert new clients, you need to start now. You need to start creating momentum, building your pipeline so that it's all going to pop in the new year. And as I've said on this slide, if you're not generating new business right now, if you're not staying ahead of the game and filling your funnel, your business could be in danger. Because we often have clients that approach the Promo Donna and say, the reason we're having to use your lead generation services is because we lost 3 of our top clients and we didn't have a way of generating leads. You know, we relied heavily on those 3 clients for our revenue, for the majority of our revenue. And now that they've walked, we don't know where our next lead is coming from. So by implementing a strategy today to generate more leads, you're going to not only stay ahead of the game, but you're going to have a little ticking engine room in the background filling that funnel so you know where the leads are coming from. So I've said here that there's some companies that will emerge from this crisis in the new year, not only surviving, but thriving. And I think a lot of that is because they have a consistent sales process. So they have a process in place that not only allows them to nurture, you know, as Kylie and Rob pointed out, to attract those leads, to engage them, but then also to make the most of those opportunities when they hit your business. So let's have a look at one thing, the first step that I would recommend to all of you. So let's say you are ahead of the game. You're one of these proactive business owners or people that are looking at November and December and saying, well, I want to ramp up rather than ramping down. I'm going to use Kylie and Rob to generate new leads and to attract them and engage them into my business. But now they've hit your business, you're wondering, well, what should I be doing? And the thing that I find a lot of my clients have missing in their business is a qualification process. Now, Kylie and Rob both touched on the fact that you really have to define your target market. You know, you have to know their demographics, their psychographics, who are the people that you want to work with. Now, that's all well and good because you'll get the right people coming to your door. But once they knock on the door, do you actually know what questions to ask them to make sure they are a fit for your business? So when the Promo Donna, we get an incoming inquiry. So let's say we've run a Facebook ad campaign and we've had a whole lot of inquiries. I still have my team with a needs assessment questionnaire. So that's something you can note down now. Create a needs assessment questionnaire, which is almost like a tick the box for, is this lead the perfect and ideal fit for our company? So they'll ask questions like, you know, what's the size of your business? Have you used a lead generation company before? Are you the decision maker? You know, is this the person you want to sell to? Do they have a list? You know, all the questions that will really enable us to define they're a great fit. And then only at that point will they set up a qualified appointment for me to talk to that prospect. Because not only are you then defining that they're a great fit for your business, but you're not going to waste your time selling to someone that isn't worth that time. You know, how many people here have had those situations where someone's inquired to their business and they think, oh, this lead is red hot, you know, they're ready to go, I'm going to convert them, and then nothing happens. It doesn't really go anywhere. You might send them a proposal or, you know, something of that nature, and then you hear crickets. Well, it may be that you didn't fulfill this step in the process, which was to first qualify them, and you would have saved a lot of time because perhaps you would have defined that they weren't a right fit for you. So top tip there is put into place a qualification process, and that might be in the form of a needs assessment questionnaire. Now, once we've actually defined that they're our ideal client, I'm now going to take you guys through the sales process that the Promo Donna team and I use each and every day. Because, you know, you probably got in your minds, well, Ash, you know, you're a cold calling team. I don't want to do cold calling. That's not my, you know, not to my, my liking. The great news is this sales process can actually be used in any sales situation I've found. So if, like today, we're talking about attracting and engaging social media leads, once you've defined that they're an ideal fit for your company, you can use the same sales process to convert them into a client or to take that next step forward so that they are that little bit hotter and they will convert at some point for your business. So if you're sitting there thinking, yep, I've got the lead, they're a fit for me, but now what do I say? This is what you say at each point in the sales process. So let's go through it. So the first step in our sales process at the Promo Donna is all about preparation. Now, preparation can actually be broken down into two components. The first being mastering your sales mindset. Now, I like to call sales the biggest mindset game out there. It's probably why I love playing it. You know, Kylie and I were talking earlier about loving human psychology, and I think this is part of it. I believe if you haven't mastered your sales mindset, there is no way you will achieve the results that you want in sales. So in order to get to that state of mind, here are my tips for you. Firstly, write down the goals you want to achieve in any sales session as if you've already achieved them. So when I pick up the phone, let's say I'm going to call 10 hot prospects that inquired to my business, I will write down on a piece of paper, I generated 3, proposals from the conversations today. And then I'll write 1, 2, 3 down the page. And it's amazing how my brain starts to filter for the outcomes that it thinks it's already achieved. And what's great about this strategy is it also makes the no's easier. Because if someone says no to you, well, that's okay. I can move on to the next prospect who will probably say yes. So write down your goals. The other thing is to be aware of the state that you are in and the energy you're feeding off to people. Now, I love to tell a story here that when I started calling, I was naturally quite good at it. But this one morning, I had just the worst situation, almost like a snowball effect. So I got bogged in my driveway. I was running late for work. I spilled coffee down my top. Everything was just spiraling out of control. But I thought, look, I'm going to get into the office, start calling, and forget about what happened. The first decision maker that I spoke to said, Ashleigh, I don't think I'd buy from you. You don't sound like you want to be at work. You don't have any passion for what you do, and just laid into me. And I thought, what is going on? So I stepped back and I decided to reflect on what had changed. And I recognized that it was purely the state that I was in. So that negative energy from the morning and the state of mind I was in was essentially feeding energy down the phone to prospects. And I actually told that story to some cold callers from Vision Australia. So they're actually blind cold callers. And they said, it's a bit like my guide dog. When I'm sad, it almost feeds down the lead. So it happens in all situations. If you haven't mastered that state of mind, go for a walk, do a dance, meditate, whatever it is, but shift that state. Yep, David's doing a dance there. Get fired up. We've written down our goals. We have mastered our mindset. And last but not least, when it comes to our mental preparation, think about the kind of person you want to be perceived as by your market. Now, what do I mean by that? If you want a sense of authority, are you portraying that when you're on the phone? I was told very early on in my sales career, Ash, you sound like a young girl, and I don't think you've got a lot of authority in your voice. And I thought, well, what do you want me to do? I am a young girl, because I was about 19 at the time. And my boss at the time said to me, listen to the upward inflections in your voice. You ask questions like this up at the end, and it doesn't give authority. So she said, why don't you try modeling your voice on someone with authority? And I thought, well, who has that? And I decided to model my voice on news reporters. So Ashleigh Alsadie, National 9 News, speaking down with downward tones, because that gives authority. So if you are thinking, well, maybe I need to master, my phone voice a bit more, that's one way of doing it, is modeling. And it's the same on Zoom or in person with your body language. You can model people that you aspire to be like to create the success that you want. So that's preparation component 1, which is all about our mental game. The second part is about understanding your products and services in relation to what your prospects want. Now, the second part of that is so paramount, because what I'm talking about here is when you are going to go in for a pitch with someone. So let's say someone's made an inquiry, you've qualified them out, you're now going to talk about your services. They only care what's in it for them. And I can't reinforce that enough, because so many people spruik, and it's a bit like Rob was talking about the social selling. So many people think it's all about features and benefits. You know, I could talk about the promo donna. Oh, we're so great. We've been in business for 9.5 years and I've got 6 staff members and da, da, da. You don't care about that. What you care about is me saying, well, I'm going to fill your sales pipeline so you never have to worry about where your next lead's coming from. I'm going to take away all that sales grunt work that you don't have time for. I'm going to boost your revenue. Whatever it is, I want you to write down, and perhaps do it now in the chat box. Have a little think. What's the problems that you solve for your clients? So is there one key problem that you solve? So for us, it's, you know, filling a sales funnel or boosting their revenue, whatever it might be. One line, what do you do to solve a problem for your clientele? And to continue on with this, if you write that down, if you note it down to yourself, a couple of, you know, pain points, those things that your target market struggle with and how you help them to overcome it, that's what your pitch has to be about, rather than, again, all your features and benefits. So once you've done all that preparation, the mastering the mindset, you know, understanding what your prospects want, we now want to jump into the elevator pitch. Now, quite often people will say to me, well, why is an elevator pitch relevant when you're doing a follow-up call to an incoming inquiry? Well, it's still just as relevant, because you still have that 10 to 15 seconds to describe what you do and how you're going to help them. So it comes back to that last step, that preparation. How are you going to help them with their current challenges or their points of pain? Now, the elevator pitch, you know, it's a very old salesy term, but I always love pointing out to people that it does come from old Hollywood. I'm a bit of an old Hollywood movie buff, so I love this story, that people would jump into the studio elevators because they couldn't get a meeting with the studio head, and they would pitch their scripts to people, why it was so great, why it was unique and different, you know, why it should be produced. You've still got about that same time frame, so about that 10 to 15 seconds to get your message across with people. So it's got to be clear and concise, it's got to be unique and different, and again, it's got to acknowledge how you help people. Now, when it comes to an elevator pitch, the tip I would give you guys is, this is certainly an art to master. And what I mean by that is, you probably won't get it right on the first go. The promo donna, when we developed a script, for example, we might need to refine that a number of times when we go to market. So write down a couple of elevator pitches in your spare time that, you know, you might want to try out to the market, and then see what gets people's attention, see what resonates. But again, remember, it's something that, you know, is a work in progress for you. So we've done preparation. We've now come up with a great pitch. The third step in my sales process is to question, or have some great key questioning techniques. Now, I'm going to give you a tip here that if you take nothing away from my presentation except this tip, I'll still be very happy. So take out your pen or note it down on the computer. This is my top tip. The person who talks the most is losing the sale. Now, that is so empowering for some, because they think, well, hang on, I thought I had to bombard people with information and tell them everything about my business in order for them to buy from me. So you're telling me I just have to ask questions? And the answer is yes. So you need to prepare yourself, do a great pitch, and then simply ask great questions, because again, those questions will enable you to define what challenges and points of pain your prospects are struggling with. It will enable you to get the information you need to be able to sell back to them. And you can also do further qualification there too. So once you've asked some great questions, you know, you're opening up the conversation. You are taking control of that conversation too. And the prospect will tell you everything that you need, again, to be able to make a great pitch and hopefully convert them. So one point I'll make about key questioning too is that you've got to ask open-ended questions. It is a rookie mistake of mine to still sometimes ask closed questions. And the one that I tell my team, I'll tell you to stay away from. So if I hear them saying it, I always get a bit annoyed, is this something you'd be interested in? It's like a white rabbit. If you ask that question to a prospect, they'll run because it's almost like a yes and no option. And again, you know, they usually will take the no route. So ask open-ended questions. For me, I'll ask, you know, tell me more about your lead generation process. Tell me a bit more about your current sales strategies. What's working, what's not. So once we've done or asked some great questions though, we may inevitably get some objections. Now, I love objections, and I might sound a little crazy there because people go, well, aren't objections a rejection? And I say, well, no, I think that this is just prospects asking you for more information. They haven't yet seen the value in what you provide. So if you have the ability to overcome objections, you'll go a long way in converting that prospect. So let's talk about quickly some of my top tips for overcoming objections. The first is putting the objection up front. Now, what do I mean by this? So we had a signage company that we worked with at the Promo Donna, a major signage company that worked with the retailers all around Australia. But as you can imagine, retailers already had signage. So if we just did a blatant pitch of, hi, we're XYZ signage, we do signage, you know, we'd love to help you, it ain't going to go anywhere because they would have said, well, I've already got signage. What are you talking about? So I told my team, we're going to put the objection up front. We're going to say, hi, it's Ashleigh here from XYZ Signage. We're a manufacturer and installer of signage for retailers. Now, I understand that as a major retailer, you already have your signage in place and you may already have a provider. However, in my experience, at times, retailers will review these relationships or may even do a revamp of their brand. Tell me about your process with signage. It was amazing the results that came from that because we not only captured immediate opportunities from people that were doing rebrands or reviews, but the people that did have signage in place and weren't in that position were still open to the conversation and said, look, give me a call in December because that's when we'll be doing this. So it was a less pressured approach and enabled us to overcome that objection. So if you're getting objections all the time, a similar one about providers or whatnot, put the objection up front. Some other objection strategies are things like clarification. Price is always an objection, isn't it? And I always love how with price, some people say, oh, we can't afford you, but they don't even know what your pricing is. So at that point, you really need to clarify what has given them that perception. Or is it not price at all? Is it something else? You know, dig deep to find out what's actually being put forward, clarify. And last but not least, have empathy. And what I mean by this is, you know, people love to feel understood. You know, they want to feel that they are like your clients. So as an example, if someone rings me and says, look, we'd love to use your services, but we're very concerned about the quality because we used a lead generation company before and didn't get the results we wanted. I would say, look, I really appreciate the inquiry. And look, unfortunately, this is a very common conversation I'll have. A lot of companies use lead generation firms, don't get the results that they're wanting, but this is how we've changed that and then provide the solution. So empathize with your target market and then provide a great solution to them. So we've done some preparation, we've done a great elevator pitch, asked some key questions, handled all the objections. We should come to the close. That's when we at the Promo Donna know we've done a great job, because sometimes people will say, well, what's next? What's the next step? and we can sign them or set them up for an appointment, whatever it is. But if you are getting to the close and you're saying, well, I'm not really able to convert, because that is something I find a lot of people struggle with. And I would say closing is probably one of the toughest parts of the sales process because of the psychological factor. A lot of you might be sitting there going, oh, well, I struggle with it. And it's because you might be a little bit afraid sometimes of just asking for the sale. Never be afraid to ask for that sale. I find that fear comes from not wanting to be that pushy salesperson or the stereotypical, used car man or something like that. But if you have come through this sales process that I've taken you through, and it's all about having a genuine conversation with someone who has a genuine need, asking for the close is not an issue. Saying, well, look, let's, make a time for the workshop. Let's, can I prepare a proposal for you so that we can talk through the next steps and how we can kickstart this partnership? Whatever that outcome is, ask for it. And if you are still thinking, well, I'd love some tips on how I could ask for it or some strategies, some of the closing techniques that we use, number one, are the assumptive close. Now, the assumptive close is about using language that almost insinuates, I believe you're going to sign with me. So I will say things like, because the Promo Donna has a workshop session as our first step, I'll say things like, well, tell me when you sign with us and we have that workshop session, who will you be involving in that workshop? Something to that effect that assumes they're going to go ahead, and that language works wonders. The other thing that you can use is the now or never close. This is when you want to create a sense of urgency. And it's a great one, by the way, for those of you listening who might be asked about discounts. I always say to people that if someone asks you for a discount, only ever offer it once and use that now or never strategy. Because as an example, if someone says, well, look, I can't really afford the setup fee, is there something you can do? I might say, well, look, if I revise that for you, I'd need you to sign today. Because the thing is, if they give or they get that discount now, they might, if they don't sign, ask for another one a bit further down the track. And we don't want that. So using the now or never close to create that sense of urgency. So there you have it, guys. You've got the sales process that we use each and every day. I've mapped that out for you. And hopefully this will enable you to, obviously using, Kylie and Rob's strategies to attract and engage some fabulous leads to your business, but then once they hit the door, qualify them out further and then use this process to be able to have great conversations and, take them to the next step, whatever that might be. So I'd love to hear from you guys. If you are able to, write down some of these tips and tricks and you implement it in your own business, please feel free to reach out to me via email. I'd love to hear about the outcomes we're able to achieve. Like the other guys, I'm more than happy to also share these slides with you. So put in the chat box now if you want to get the slides from me. And even going a step further, if there was something in this that I spoke about that you're thinking, well, I still struggle a little bit with the elevator pitch or the objections or whatever it might be, I'm more than happy to follow up with a call too. So let me know. And I hope that this leads to many conversions in 2021 for everybody.
Awesome. Let's give Ashleigh a nice round of applause.
Well done, Ash.
That was brilliant.
So
Look, so obviously anyone who'd like to find out a bit more about Ash's services or get some of the information from the slides, just into the chat box if you'd like. Before we start to come to a close of today's session, there's one thing that's really dear to me, and that's you've invested nearly 2 hours of your time today with us, and I don't want you to walk away without a very clear list of actions. So I'm just going to give you a minute to write down in your notes, what are the top 3 things you've gotten out of today's session? What are the top 3 things that you've picked up from the 3 presenters? Just write that in your notes and then pick your favorite and put it into the chat box. So what's been the takeaways that you've had out of today? What are you excited about? What sort of resonated with you? What are the top 3 things that you picked up out of today's session? Let's get those onto your notes, please. And then into the chat box with your favorite. And we'll start a chat. Now, while I'm waiting, I do have a question that came in during the during the intermission that we didn't have, and that was for Rob. You talked about you said engage with value, not with pitching. Can you give some examples of what value looks like?
Oh, well, that's the best question ever, right? When we say sales, don't start talking about all the wonderful things you can do for somebody before they have a chance to express the issues they have inside their business.
So what's an example?
The example is actually listening.
Yeah.
Right. So ask them what it looks like inside of their business. Okay, you can add value by asking those questions and actually getting them to talk about and expressing where their issues are. That's the best value you can give to people.
Right. So really about listening, as Ashley was talking about. So I'm going to get the rest of you guys, if you put your top takeaway out of today into the chat box. We've got some from Vanessa. Not a sprint, it's a marathon. Awesome. You know, getting started now for January, definitely. I mean, this is the funny thing. Social media, people thought it was a fad. It's all for young people. They thought it was going to go away. They said that nearly 15 years ago. And I'm going to make a suggestion. It's overrunning most other advertising channels, because as Kylie showed in her photo, most people are sitting in front of their TV with their computer in front of them, right? And they're literally saying, oh, it's a break, I can check my social media, not it's a break, I should watch the commercials. So you need to be there, right? And how you're there is a question of what's your industry and how can you add value, as Rob just said. I think there's some other things from my perspective. Adding value means about giving stuff away. It means about helping people understand how to navigate out of their pain points. It's anything that you can do to make people's lives better is adding value. And it might not be transactional at the start. It might be just something you can give away. Let's go through a few more of these lessons. What have we got here? There's lots.
Great ones.
Great. I can see them coming through.
Really good.
Yeah. Any questions? Now's your chance as well. The person who talks the most loses the sale. It's really difficult when you're a presenter too, but that's exactly right.
It's okay if you're the person talking in the presentation.
Plan, pivot, publish, love it. I mean, that's just an easy way to look at how you do things. And, you know, I agree, pivot's been overused. I prefer adapt, because here's what I predict. You know, if it's not COVID, it's going to be something else. There's going to be something that sort of jars your marketplace. And if you're communicating at that point in time and you're at the lead, people will be interested because they're looking for leadership. Yeah, awesome. Awesome.
Do you know, hey, David, I'll jump in there. You know, what's interesting, I was saying in my presentation how there's always that excuse, you know, whether it's Christmas or whether it's COVID or, and now people are saying about the election as well. Like I'll never be, you know, I'm always so amazed by the things that people come up with, but those who choose to go the other way and see the opportunities are the ones that are going to fill their pipeline and benefit from it. So
yeah, and often people give excuses because they're actually not sold on you or your product quite yet. You know, and I think when you talked about objections, and objections are just windows to engage further through, because when people say it sounds too expensive or I'll check with my partner or whatever the objections are, if you're getting those a lot, all you need to do is predict those into your presentation. Because a good presentation means there's no objections that have been left that aren't the standard ones. So it's interesting, you know, today we've talked about 3 phases, right? And we've talked a bit about sort of attract. And the best thing about social media is everyone's got it. It's on their phone, it's on their computer, and so you can be in front of them. You can publish content ad nauseum. Everyone carries, you know, a TV production studio in their pocket. So being able to communicate with people is easy. Right? It's so easy that you've got to now think about how do I improve quality. Yep. So attract, and then we talked about, you know, that whole idea of nurturing or that building relationships. And this is the secret. You know, I agree with Rob. I say yes to everybody's connection requests on LinkedIn. You know, and I wait to see which pitch they're going to use. And there's probably about 5. You know, I looked at your profile and you look awesome, and we should catch up for a coffee. Or here's my information, you should read it all, and if you'd like to buy it, just click yes, you know. And it's like, really,
just be genuine, just be authentic, be authentically and be unapologetically you, with nothing hidden up your sleeves. Just genuinely love humans and love business, and the rest will take care of itself. Yeah,
there's not saying people buy from people they like, right? All things being equal, but even being unequal, people still go for people they like. So the whole building the relationship and adding value is about stop trying to pitch. And I think you guys mentioned a number of times today, it's not about sort of pitching your product. People will buy your product if they want it.
Yes.
right? But if they don't understand how you can solve their problems, then they're not ready to buy.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. The person who talks the most is losing the sale. Yes, we've had that happen. Well, someone said a really good one. They said we've got 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth, and we should be using them in those proportions, which is 1/5 of the time we should be talking. So that's awesome. To stay in business, people need to remember you, definitely. Value, value, value. Rob Lowe telling us about content sharing and conversations. Look, I want to wrap up on a couple of things before we do wrap up for today. We've had 3 awesome presenters, and each one of them is worth having a conversation with because they're very different in what they do, but they complement what they do as well. So anyone who's interested in engaging in social media, it's not just about creating likes, it's also about getting those conversions into sales. The 3 presenters here today are definitely there to help you with that. One last thing I just wanted to touch on, if I can make my technology work. It's really the reason people don't go ahead. And I think most of the people that I meet in business, the reason they don't engage in social media, they're too busy.
Yeah.
Look, I'd love to have that done, but I just don't have time. And that's chaos, right? And to me, business is not about busyness. Business is about profitability. So we need to work out, how do you get your time back? How do you strategize your business? How do you build these strategies in so you're doing it all the time? If you need to outsource, outsource, but manage, right? Because it's only when we get back into control that we can grow. And trying to grow a business that's in chaos is just crazy, right? And that's why I see people who say, look, I don't want to invest in lead generation. I'm too busy. But people forget that generating leads is not just about generating more clients. It's about improving your profitability, generating higher caliber clients. So building relationships with ideal clients takes time. If you're in chaos, you don't have that time. So we can't grow unless we get into control. And the last thing is about leveraging, and sometimes, not about doing it yourself. It's about finding experts that can do things for you. But I don't believe that's doable if you don't have cash flow. Right? Cash flow comes from growth, and growth comes from getting out of chaos. So there's a method to our madness, right? And I think talking to any one of these presenters will put you in good stead for next year for growing your funnel and making sure that you've got heaps of work behind you. But, if you're not ready to get into this mode because you're too busy, then you probably need to come and do something different, right? But there's an old saying, it's one of my favorite quotes of all time. Jim Rohn used to be one of my favorite philosophers. And when I started reading books, this was one of my favorite quotes. And he said, never wish life were easier, right? It's all about wishing you were better. And I think one of the things we forget when we talk about, oh my God, COVID, oh my God, bushfires, all these things are happening around us. They're outside, right? You can't control what happens outside. You can control how you act and how you behave in the face of these things. And I'm watching people who are using COVID as a fast track for their business because they're using technology to actually move forward. They're using people stuck at home on social media to say, let's start building our databases, our relationships, because they are going to get out one day. And when they do, guess where they're going to go? With the people they know, like, and trust. So making sure that you advance yourself over these next few months is critical, because next year, everyone's going to be hitting the ground running. It's going to be fiercely competitive out there, but it's going to advantage the people who are prepared. So if you start building these relationships right now, you're going to have super success in your business. And one last thing, I just want to talk about something for those people who are in that planning mode. We're moving towards the end of the year. We run this thing called the Business Adaptation Plan. It's a 2-hour online workshop. Next one's on the 25th of November at 9 o'clock. It runs for 2 hours, 9 till 11. I run it. It's normally $100, but if you're on this call and you're interested, just type into the chat box adaptation and we'll get you in for free. If anyone needs help with planning their business moving forward, all you need to do is type adaptation into the window and we'll get you in for free. Other than that, I want to acknowledge, I suppose, the presenters from today. I'd like to acknowledge Kylie because she did an awesome job and I love her slides. They're beautiful. I'd like to acknowledge Rob, who's really not that great with technology, but he does what he's supposed to do, right? He connects people on social media, and LinkedIn is not about being bright and fluffy. LinkedIn is about connection. And of course, Ashleigh, who's teaching us how to move into closing the sales. So please reach out to these guys. I've known all of them for quite a while, and I think that they're at the top of their game. If you need some help in those areas, please reach out to them. Other than that, I want to acknowledge everybody else. First of all, let's give these presenters a nice clap, right? You can do that little clappy thing. Yeah, awesome. And also you guys, you've actually sat on a call for 2 hours listening to quite a lot of information about growing the business. And I want to acknowledge you for that, because some other people are too busy to be sitting here listening and they're missing out on this stuff. Yeah. So, acknowledge yourself for what you've done. Make sure you take some action as a result of today. Don't leave it to just, that was great information and go back to work. Put some action items in your to-do list and make sure you get stuff done. Other than that, I want to thank you guys very much for your attendance. Hope you got some good value out of today. And look forward to hearing about the success in 2021. So thanks, guys.